Test 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. 3, 2, 1. All right. All right. It's a wild, wild world out there. It is. It is. It is. It is. Not to be confused with the wild, wild world in here. Oh my goodness. Excuse me. Lemonade. Hello, Gunner. Hello, Rich. Hello, Eastern Shore Broadcasting. Oh, that's me. Hello, Daniel. Audio low, sir. Okay. Yo, yeah. Wow. It's way low. How about that? Is that better? That better. I was playing with everything earlier. You shouldn't test things and change things around on the day of a broadcast. No, you shouldn't. My audio is lost. Oh, I think it's found. I think it's found now. All right, much better. There we go. Who else is here? Kyle's here. Rick's here. Jesper's here. Welcome. Glad to have you guys here. Peter's here. Glad to have you. Gabriel's here. Stream Fire Live. Live. I love it. I love it. Butter, says Rich. I love it. I love comments like that. Well, how's the world going for you guys? You know, are you locked down? Are you locked up? Be better to lock down than be locked up. Isn't that funny how one word, up or down, affects the meaning totally? Goodness. Is it like that in other languages besides English? Tim had to reload before he could get in. He had to reload. Okay. Daytona Beach, where there is no spring break anymore. Otis out in Texas. Sam's here. Sam's in Mississippi. Just wanted to hear about Zoom. Yeah, everybody wants to know about Zoom. Gee whiz. We'll do kind of a open kind of, in fact, you guys can probably call in too. That would be fun. Today is Waffle Day. Wow. Wixton, thank you for telling us about it. I love waffles. I didn't know that. If you ever go to, I don't know if it's just Netherlands, but if you can get a stroopwafel, or however you say it, we call it stroop waffles down here in the South. So you definitely want to get a stroop waffle, no doubt. It is a treat. It's a treat. We had them at IBC in September in Amsterdam. I had them right out of the stroop waffle machine. It was amazing. We went to one restaurant. I had a pancake. No lie, it was this big. It was amazing. Amazing. Okay, let's see. Final Focus says, after spending more than a few hours trying to get NDI audio into Wirecast, I'm a vMix convert. Well, we're glad to have you over to the light side. Yep, you came in from the dark. Glad to have you, Final Focus. Or can we just call you FFP for short? How about that? Rich says the apocalypse is weird, where you can drive through Amazon. Really? I didn't know you could drive through Amazon. That's amazing. Hey, Rudy, glad you're here. Hope you're doing well. Rich says his AGM ran vMix from his home this morning for the morning radio show. Man, aren't we figuring out 1,000 ways to do things that we probably never ever would have tinkered with before? Otis says, I'm essential personnel, I guess. However, Houston is on lockdown. Well, I'm glad you're essential. We think you're essential. Oh, my goodness. Gee whiz. All right. FFP is Steve, but his clients call him Otter. There's a story behind that. Troy's here. Hope you're hanging in there, buddy. I saw New Jersey is like one of the top 5 places in the U.S. right now. Tim says, my wife is Dutch, and she said she never liked those waffles. Too sweet. There is no such thing as too sweet. Oh, my goodness. Yep. So today we're going to talk about Zoom, and we're going to talk about vMix Call, because everybody wants to do remote stuff, and they're running into problems. And I'll tell you, half the problems that people are running into are not their fault. It's the blame it on the big V. That's right. The big V. And I'm talking about the virus, not the other big V. That's right, not victory. Um, yeah, I was talking with Cliff this morning, and he was working with a client on vMix call, and we're still in pre-show, by the way, folks. Even though it's past 2 o'clock, and we'll probably do most of the show here from the work desk. But Cliff said, Cliff Sobel with Streamcast Network. You've probably seen some of his stuff I've been posting. He's got some great ideas, and he was working with a client, and the client was in a remote location, of course. That's the way it's going right now. And yesterday, when they did the setup, the client had 99 megs upload, just blazing fast upload. And he was in a very affluent section of, New York State somewhere. I don't know. And Cliff said today they went to do vMix call, getting ready for the show, and it was just crap. And he called me, Tom, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? All right, let's start with the basics. Does the guy have the latest version of Google Chrome? What's his internet speed? Well, he had the latest version of Google Chrome, but his 99 megs up from yesterday was point something today. Go figure. Go figure. All right, so we're really becoming dependent on this internet thing. And, what happens when it doesn't work? What's the backup plan? Cell phone? Yeah. Okay. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. But we can't fix bad internet, at least not right here. Sorry. All right. For Steve's at the last meeting, and the mug they handled me says otter. It's stuck. All right. Well, that's what happens when there are 4 Steves in the same place. New Jersey is number 2. All right. Woo, go New Jersey. Yeah. Pull-In Radio Network, the afternoon team is here. Let's see. Rudy said, I've set up last week different streaming solutions for Crisis Board and encountered so many problems related to hardware and user error. User error? No. Say it ain't so. Oh, Eric's here. We can get going. Okay, thank you very much. Internet overload. Yes. Troy, I think you're right. It's not only internet overload, but Facebook overload, YouTube overload. Facebook was having all sorts of problems Sunday. Every church in the world is live streaming, if just from a phone, which is okay. That's a great way to live stream. Josh is sending me a message. So, Josh, I'll get back to you, I promise. And even YouTube announced that the default setting for the YouTube player, in fact, you guys tell me if this is true when you're looking at it right now, is for 480 for standard definition. So go down to the little gear icon, the settings icon. If you're watching on your phone, it'll be 2 dots or 3 dots right up here, and check and see what your resolution is that YouTube is volunteering to you. If you're watching the YouTube feed, which is embedded in our website. If you're not, if you're on the Facebook feed, well, I'd love to know what Facebook recommends to you too, and we'll see. But the report was that YouTube had shifted the default not to the highest bandwidth that you could take, but rather to 480, and that you could choose more. They weren't locking you out. They just weren't giving it to you automatically. So there you go. Rich says, rebooted the router if internet is slow. Well, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. I'll suggest that. If that doesn't work, then plan B. Plan B is, plan B. Tim says, that's why I have 2 internet services, DSL and cell. All right. Good plan. And, you can only have so many backup plans, and at some point you just have to say, it broke, can't fix it, we're out of luck. Troy says he thinks the New Jersey virus rate is even with the tax rate. You guys are overtaxed. There is no doubt. Eric says that WebEx is overloaded. Holy cow. And Rudy says, tip of the day, tell them not to use mute all. Okay. Don't use mute all, you guys. Y'all. Daniel says, Sweden isn't on lockdown, but authorities recommend you stay at home and avoid any travel. Loads of people working from home. I'm not working from home. I'm working for the studio, but I'm the only one here and in this complex that we have. I mean, it's only five offices, but nobody else is here today. Tim says that his YouTube video says 144p. Whoa, that's like the lowest you can get. Troy is listening in to hear about those newly upgraded mobile towers. Yeah, well, I don't know anything about those. Donald Oliver Ministries is here and wishes us all grace and peace to you too, sir. Otis says I'll be using vMix Call to stream audio to a conference call for less technical seniors, and Facebook and YouTube for everybody else. Good use. Pulling Radio Network, is that Ray? I believe Facebook was overloaded last night, lots of crashing. And Tim says, welcome to Century Clunk. I think that's Century Link. Yeah, that's an outfit out of Illinois that's taken over lots of little small mom and pop phone companies all over the U.S. Wixton, by the way, is that social live space getting bigger every session, takes up half of the view. We can see the chat right here. Well, yeah, but the reason for that is, number one, it's pre-show. And it also means that it can help me because I can look at the screen here. But this is also being broadcast to Facebook, the Streaming Idiots group, and to Facebook, the Eastern Shore Broadcasting page. And so this doesn't, I mean, most of your comments are on the YouTube feed. So if somebody is on the Facebook feed, it'll come up over here. But if they're watching Facebook, they don't get this. And plus, if that takes up half the screen, the other half is me. You mean, Wixton, you mean you miss me that much? I love it. Thank you so much. I don't think that's what you meant. But anyway, Otis has got 480. Rich says, is Alabama on lockdown? No, Alabama's not on lockdown. I heard that Tampa, Florida might go on lockdown per the mayor today. But they did close the pier here in Fairhope. So that was pretty bad news. So we can't go walk on the pier. But, all the restaurants are doing takeout only. All of the retail stores are, if you want something, you can go pick it up and they'll bring it out to you in a little bag. But like Walmart's still open. I think Home Depot and Lowe's are still open. Obviously, pharmacies are still open. But Sandy and I have been cooking in for seems like forever. I think tonight we'll go out and pick up something. But I just miss going to a restaurant. If you do go out and do takeout, make sure you tip really, really well. Make sure you tip really, really well, because the people that are bringing that food out to you are considered servers, and at least here in the United States, they are allowed to be paid less than minimum wage. So the restaurants, of course, are doing that, and the servers are living on tips, which my son, while he's in grad school down in Central Florida in Tampa, is serving in a restaurant several days a week, and then going to school at night, and then doing internships some days. Anyway, not now, but he lives on tips, and when the tips go down, that's that makes it hard for them to keep going. So make sure you tip well. I mean, better than normal. And I'd say every chance, if you have the wherewithal, every chance you get to be generous, now's the time to do it. Yep, now's the time to do it. And this is the kind of people we are, folks. This is the kind of people we are. We are generous, giving people, and it will be given back to us. So Wixton says, true, you're right, my bad. Well, I knew you'd see it my way. I just had to help you see it the way it really was. And you can tell I forgot to turn off the automatic white balance in this camera. I apologize for that. Streamfire Live says, Facebook live bombed a church stream I set up last Sunday. They live bombed it? You mean they put something else in it, like a photo bomb? Ken's here. Ken, I need to send you tracking, but I did ship your portable PC case yesterday, and you're really going to like it. You're going to have a lot of fun with it. But remember, you're working with a much smaller motherboard, and that motherboard is not going to have necessarily all the room for all the things you expect. For example, I was checking my micro ATX motherboard last night on the one that I'm building, the prototype, and it had one USB 3 connector. And I know you showed me the one that had two, that would hook into two connectors, but that's only if you have two connectors. Now, there may be a micro ATX motherboard that has two, but just wanted to alert you for that. Tim says Orange County may lock down Thursday. Orange County, is that Orange County, Florida? Orange County, California? No beaching in Daytona Beach. Yep, I heard that. Maria's here. Marie is the one that takes her X keys 80 everywhere she goes. She takes it to the grocery store. She takes it to work. Jan has to wrestle it away from her before she goes in the shower. I mean, it's amazing that she is addicted to her X keys 80. She has pictures of it on her Facebook page today. Ed's here. Welcome, Ed. Conan Patrick is here. He's in Belgium. I think Rudy's in Belgium too, aren't you, Rudy? Here in Belgium, we stay in the house. Yep, I get it. Rich says, how's my inventory? I have found that I can get about half of what I need regularly. You can't buy a webcam these days. I mean, you can get a $60 webcam for $160 on eBay, but you can't buy a Logitech C920. The PTZ Optics PTZ cameras, they're waiting for a shipment to come in, supposed to be coming in next week, so they're all out of those. So far as components for building PCs, I haven't had any problems with those. The portable PCs, we have about a dozen of those on hand, and we've got more on the way. Now these are portable PC cases, and we're doing two things. One is we'll sell you the case if you want to buy it, and I'll show you one in just a second. It's $1,000 for the case, or if you want to buy it pre-built, it's about $59.95, depending on how it's configured. And we're actually stripping the case down to the frame and sending all of the external case parts out to be powder coated. So it's going to look like brand new, at least in most cases, and it's going to have all brand new components. The only original components they'll have will be the keyboard, the touchpad, and the monitor. We're replacing the power supply and everything, so it'll have new guts. Yep. That's how the inventory. Frank says, are there any cookies left? Are there any more cookies left? Frank, this is the internet. There are always cookies. Rick says, I just introduced my priest to vMix Call. May call to upgrade to Pro shortly. Love it. Yeah, by the way, folks, if you don't already know it, I'm a vMix reseller. I can upgrade you anything you want to in vMix. Yes, that's true. Marie says, John is not getting his dirty mitts on his X keys. Nope. Sorry, Alabama. I'm going to turn you off right there. And she got her X keys from Dan Slider, the Slider D. Yes, Rudy's in Belgium. All right, Streamfire says, I meant bombed as in the live stream video was terribly pixelated, but the audio was fine, go figure. Well, everybody's concerned in bandwidth because, you think about it, it's like a highway. The highways do great, at least around here, and then all of a sudden, it's a hurricane and the governor issues an evacuation order and everybody gets on the highway and cars that were going like this are now going like this. Yeah. And I bet the internet's the same way. All of a sudden, occasional use for emails and Netflix and, and that kind of stuff suddenly is being used in a business sense at home during the day. And it's just blowing up the internet because everybody's getting on the internet with their own connection instead of one company that has, a really super fast connection, but it might be serving 100 or 200 or 500 people. Miranda's here. Okay, we should think about getting started. Yeah, we're gonna go talk about Zoom and vMix Call here in just 1 second. Pulling Radio Network, has vMix seen a spike in sales? Well, we have. So if we're indicative of vMix. But, the other thing is vMix did extend their 60-day trial to 90 days as kind of a gift to folks that want to test and give people an opportunity to use vMix through this duration. So a lot of those sales won't really show up for 60 to 90 days. is the way it generally works. All right, Scott Owen is here. Welcome. And Rudy says the spikes are all on Spiny. Marie says he has an XK24 and a replay controller. That's right. He's got plenty of toys. He doesn't need to steal yours. Michael is here from Dunellen. Welcome, sir. Good to see you or be seen by you. And Marie lost the connection to the work VPN, but she can still watch Streaming Idiots. Okay. How's your knee, by the way? I hope it's healing up or completely healed by now. She had a skiing accident prior. Earthquake. Yeah, that was me tapping the desk. Sorry about that. Oh, no, that was probably a real earthquake because Rich and Ken are both in California. I just hit the desk here and I thought the camera was moving, but he had that comment too quickly. So, yeah, you guys hang in there. We don't need earthquakes. Michael, have I missed the show? No, Michael, we haven't even started the show yet. Sorry, we're running late today. But now that everybody's here, now that Michael's here and Eric's here, we can get started. Yeah. All right. Let's do one thing here real quickly. Let's find out what camera 11 is, and we'll put it right here. So multi-view, camera 11. Camera 11, right there. Oh, there it is. It's right there. Okay, good. So we'll take that one off. And good. And then we need to fix one thing. I didn't get a chance to fix all this stuff beforehand. I'm sorry. I am a slob today. Chroma key. How's chroma key? Okay. Doesn't like my yellow shirt today for some reason. Got the lights right. Don't know what it is. There's just some days like that. I may have to be a little transparent today. Transparency is a good thing, except with a show like this. All right, and then position, multi-view, position, main, crop from the right, we'll go there, and yeah, okay. We'll just have to keep our elbows in. Okay, so we're good right there. So, yeah. All right. So let's get the show on the road, shall we? Yeah. And Marie needs to get her VPN working. Definitely time to stop working. Well, that's a good point. Scott says, are you paying attention to the Facebook comments? Well, actually, I'm only seeing what vMix is pulling in to vMix Social, and it can't take comments from the from groups. So let's take a quick look at the group. Looks like we've got some comments there. Addison's there, Dean's there, Kevin's there, Ed's there. You guys need to come on over really to the to what do you call this? To the Eastern Shore Broadcasting page, so that you can see what's going on. Ed posted "Hello, everybody." He left off the H, and Facebook wants to try to translate that to a different language. So Amanula's here. Kevin is in Ohio, and they're on lockdown. And Dean's in Orlando and Orange County, and they are staying in place. And Kevin Fowler sent the link. Okay, thank you, Kevin Fowler. All right. So, what are we thinking? We're thinking let's get this show off the road. Here we go. We have a deadline. That's right. I have a deadline too. Let's go. Let's do a show. Ready? Ready or not? Here we come. Audio is important. Don't you think? I think audio is important. Okay, I'm Tom Sinclair. This is Streaming Idiots, of course. So glad to have you here today. It's a crazy day. It's a crazy world, these worlds. But this will pass. This will pass, and we'll be tougher for it. We'll know what we're made of. And my heart is out to those that are ill. I hope you recover quickly with very few problems. Here in the state of Alabama in the USA, we have 200, 300 cases, a couple of cases locally, but it appears to be, kind of the way the flu would work, although we're actually doing better than if it were the flu here. I know New York is suffering terribly, and Spain and Italy are suffering terribly. So my thoughts and my prayers are with you if you're in any of those places. And many places in the U.S. are going on lockdown. And as they do, as you find yourself in these situations, what I'm finding is that more and more people are trying to do more and more things remotely. And sometimes they're conference calls, sometimes they're church things where we're bringing in different resources and trying to still. Ed says, put audio into your script. Yeah, well, Ed, if I were in the other part of the studio, it would have happened automatically. But you know me. But there's so many things that we can try to do remotely on the internet because we have it. I mean, nowhere in the history of time have we been better able to pull off working and worshiping and doing all sorts of things from home in an international worldwide crisis like this. We've never had as many tools as we have today. And as a result, maybe 10 years from now, we'll look back and say, golly, we were in the dark ages back then, 10 years ago, when the coronavirus came through. But compared to what we know of the last 20 years, golly, geez, so many of us can continue to work from home or work from wherever we can work from because we have the internet, because we have tools like vMix, because we have tools like Zoom. And so we're going to try to show you some of those things today, as many as we can. One of the downsides in it is that I made a lot of last minute changes before the show. So I'm hoping they're going to work. And if they don't, then you get to see me troubleshoot, which is the same kind of things that you're going to be doing. Funny story, and I told this in pre-show, but let me bring everybody up to date on it again, is that I was talking with Cliff, Cliff from the Streamcast Network. He was working with a client, and they did a test vMix call yesterday. Haven't I trained him well? Yes, they did a test call yesterday with the client. Client was remote somewhere in New York, had 99 megs upload. Now, if you're just getting into this, there are two speeds for the internet. One is the speed from the world to you, and the other is the speed from you to the world. And here in the live streaming business, we care about this one, the upload. That's critical. I mean, yeah, we care about the download too, but we really care about the upload because that's the information that we're sending up to our CDN. In this case, for me, it's YouTube and Facebook. He had an upload speed of 99 megabits per second. That's good. Here in my studio, I have an upload of 20 megabits per second, and I'm streaming currently to Facebook and YouTube about 9 of those 20. So it's about slightly less than half. Cliff and his client went to do their regular gig today, and the vMix call that was beautiful yesterday was crap today. I mean, it just wouldn't work. It was no audio, no video, and I think the audio was real glitchy. And so Cliff called me real quick and said, can you give me some ideas to troubleshoot? And I said, well, number one, check his remote browser. I guess although if it worked yesterday on his browser, it wouldn't have, the browser wouldn't have failed. So that was a stupid thing for me to say. But the second thing that I said was, what's his internet speed? And so he had the client on the other line. He put me on hold. He went and checked, and he said the client says his internet is point. And at that point, it didn't matter what it was. It was like point. Oh, no, no, no. We want like 99 point something, something, something. We don't want point, 0 point something, something, something. So he didn't have internet. So he wasn't going to be able to do it. It doesn't matter what troubleshooting we do. If you don't have internet, it's not going to work. Now, Rich was saying in pre-show, one of the things that you probably should do in that kind of troubleshooting situation is to reset your router. That maybe some dust got into your router. Who knows? But that's a good idea. I mean, I know at our church every Sunday when I live stream, the first thing I do when I get there is reset the router because I don't know what's happened during the week, and I want a fresh instance of whatever's going on. And I reset the router and restart the computer so that we're in a fresh situation. And those are probably good troubleshooting techniques to start. That's the first thing you do with everything. Restart the router for the internet, restart the PC. Who knows what may have happened, what may have gone on. And then in the PC world, the next thing you check is, are my Windows up to date? I was checking one of my PCs yesterday, and doggone if I hadn't missed a major 1909 Windows 10 update. And so that probably was why some things may not have been working as well as I thought they could. So I got that update in, and we're living happily ever after until the next update comes along. Rich says that Microsoft sends out their updates the second Tuesday of every month. So beware that day. Go ahead and pause your updates so that you get past that day, maybe even a week past that day, and give them a chance to take those sour updates. It didn't quite work. Why would they put that stuff out there? Anyway, so that they can take those sour updates and make them sweet and then get them ready to go. So pause your Windows for at least a week past the second Tuesday, and then take a time when you don't have a whole lot pressing to go ahead and get yourself up to date. So assuming you're up to date, assuming your Chrome is up to date, assuming your vMix is up to date. Somebody called me this morning with vMix and Facebook wouldn't work. It just, and he was mad at me, and he wasn't even my customer. And I asked him, I said, what version of vMix are you working for? What's the number version? It's up in the top left corner. And he said 21. I was like, whoa, hold on a second. Update to 23, please. All your problems will go away. At least those problems. You may get some new problems, but yeah, that's probably going to be what you need. So I think he went and in fact, he updated right over the phone and it worked right there. So we were happy. So Marie says a restart of her computer fixed the VPN. So there you go. You can see where sorry about that. I'm working from home. Not really. I'm just working from the other side of the studio today. All right, so let's talk about Zoom. If you've been living under a rock and you don't know what Zoom is a great conferencing tool that you can use on the internet where everybody you want to talk to that has a camera and a microphone and a way to hear can join in to a conference call with you, a video conference call. And there are all sorts of companies that are using that for their regular day-to-day business now. There are other versions of that. There's the official, what is it, the corporate Skype now. I think it's called Microsoft Teams. And there's several other programs like that will do conferencing. But Zoom is good because it's inexpensive. I think you can buy a 1-year subscription for $100 or something like that and have up to 200 callers. We use Zoom when we teach our classes, like the vMix 101 class we taught in the fall, which, by the way, we're going to be offering again in 2 weeks. You want to, I'll dig it out and put let me start that whole thought again. We're doing a vMix 101 class that starts April 7th. There is an early bird discount code that I will put into something in just a second. Maybe I'll just lay it across the screen here so that you can log in and get it. It'll save you $20 on it. It goes for 6 weeks. It covers all the basics of vMix. It's a 90-minute class, 1 day a week, Tuesday afternoons. All the lessons will be recorded. That's where Zoom comes in. And everybody's discussion, that's where Zoom comes in. So we're doing 2 things with Zoom. One is we're recording the class, so we're recording my lesson, and then any questions that come as a result of that. And we start a recording for one part of the lesson, and then we stop it, and then there's another lesson during the same same day, same time period. So we might have 3 or 4 lessons during the same block of time. And we're dividing those up and then uploading those to a private Facebook group that everybody in the class is welcome to join. And then you can go back and review. So if you miss a class, or if you got called away during one of the lessons, you can go back and watch it again. And that's where, of course, all the homework will be as well. And yes, you do have homework. You'll be homeschooled. So we use Zoom, number one, to record my session. And so I actually have a second PC that is pulling in the Zoom output and recording that. And the reason we do it that way is because the Zoom screen share looks better when it's recorded that way than when it's recorded in vMix. Then we record the Zoom screen share directly in vMix here, so we record it over there. I'll go into more detail with that if you're interested. And so we're basically just starting and stopping a recording. And we're recording the output screen in Zoom, which is set to pin the speaker. So if I'm the speaker, I can right-click on my image and it'll bring up a little window. And one of the choices there is pin speaker, which means my video always stays as the primary video. And that way I can record just myself part of the lesson. The other way that we use Zoom is that all of the class participants, the students, I have the students, all the participants, all the attendees, all the pupils come in via Zoom. So Zoom, we send a link to a Zoom meeting. Everybody can join the meeting. All you need is a browser with your webcam and your microphone and your speakers. Preferably, a headset so that your speaker audio doesn't blend into your mic, and it's not so much for you as it is for our video or our audio that would feed back to you, half a second later, something like that. Can be a little annoying. So everybody's joining like that. Everybody gets their own little picture across the screen, and when it comes time for class discussion, or if somebody has a question, they can raise their hand, and I can see Mike's raising his hand again. And so he can ask a question. And as a general protocol in our meetings, we like everybody to keep themselves muted until they have a question. And what that means is that the Zoom is pretty much dead silent except for me and whatever I'm saying or showing or playing. And I can hear when somebody opens up their channel, because all of a sudden there's a little bit of room noise on the channel, and that's my cue to kind of look up and see, okay, who's got their hands up, who wants to ask a question. And then when we have class discussion, of course, everybody can discuss back and forth between themselves. So Zoom is a great little tool for doing that. Now, there are a couple of things that you want to do if you're going to, one, be a Zoom participant and use vMix, and two, record the Zoom session, or incorporate the Zoom session into your vMix, which is then broadcast somewhere else. So there are lots of different things that we're talking about. Let's just talk about getting your video from vMix into Zoom. That's the easiest in the world. Everybody's got a button in vMix called the external button. If you punch that button and you get a message that your renderer can't render, that means you just need to go into external outputs and turn off the renderer. Somehow you've turned it on. And then you go back and turn on external. Once you do that, what external does is external populates a virtual webcam. And so that suddenly your PC has this webcam source that is your vMix output. And then once you've turned on external, then you can fire up Zoom, go into your Zoom setup. As you're choosing your camera, there'll be something there that says vMix video. I'd show it to you, but I'm not ready to show it to you, so you'll just have to take my word for it. The audio is a little tougher. I'm not going to go through the audio part right now because there's several good tutorials on the internet, in YouTube, some of which I have made myself. So if you just Google, if you do a YouTube search for vMix Zoom, you'll get those, and they'll walk you through how to set up the audio using something called virtual audio cables. So it sets up the speaker in vMix to attach to the mic in Zoom, and then the mic, the speaker in Zoom attaches to the mic in vMix. So you've got your audio going back and forth the way it's supposed to. It can be a little confusing. I find if I write it out on a piece of paper with circles and arrows, it makes it a lot easier to understand. And I keep that in my drawer in case I mess it up. So you've got two-way communication with Zoom. That is, this window right here becomes my Zoom feed. And the audio that you're hearing becomes my Zoom feed audio, and I hear the audio from Zoom however I've selected to hear it from in vMix, probably by monitoring an audio cable. But once you've got that established, that connection with Zoom, then, for example, let's say Rich and Ken are on the West Coast, and I'm kind of not really on the East Coast, more really in the South, but it doesn't matter. Let's say we're going to do a round robin discussion about California versus Alabama as a place to retire. How about that for a stimulating discussion? And by the way, $1 in Alabama goes about 5 times as far as $1 in California. So we're going to have this discussion, and we're going to live stream it. So if we want to live stream it, really what we want to live stream is not my window like you guys are seeing right now, but we want to live stream the Zoom window. That is the Zoom with all 3 of us characters in it and our audio. And to do that, things have changed. And this is where a lot of people have called me just really fussing and cussing. Well, mostly fussing. One guy cussed, but it wasn't a bad one. Because they can't capture the Zoom window. Well, I wrote Martin Sinclair, the developer of vMix, about this. Whoops. Sorry, I got to remember to turn that ringer down. I'll hold on to the phone until this call goes away, and then we'll turn the ringer down. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay, now we're good. So if you call me and I don't answer, it's because the ringer's down. It's Arkansas's fault. All right, so we're capturing that Zoom window, or we would like to capture it, and it used to be that you could go into vMix, into desktop capture. Shall I just show you? I'll show you how it used to work. How about that? So let's just set up a desktop capture so I can show you how to do a desktop capture. How about that? I think it'll be display 1. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is my desktop. Let's put me over here. Yep, there I am on the left. The big window is preview with the orange top. Output is over there with the green top. All my inputs are below me right here, and you can see their cameras. Let's get that lower third out of there. Their cameras and audio and all sorts of other things down there in the input section right below. But I can add. Oh, let's do one more thing right here. Let's just go in, and we're going to sharpen this little window so that the text will appear just a little clearer for you. So I'm going to add an input, and it's going to be a desktop capture, but they've added this other thing to it. It says NDI desktop capture, NDI desktop capture right there in green. And then you get this little spinner, and that spinner bothers everybody. It's like, oh my gosh, it's loading and it won't load. Well, in this case, the spinner doesn't mean loading. The spinner means scanning. Maybe we ought to change that icon to like a satellite dish or something like that, or a radar dish as opposed to a spinner. And you can see right now that under NDI, the only thing that comes up is my PTZ Optics camera, which doesn't have NDI on it, by the way. But I've got 2 choices up here. I've got NDI and I've got local desktop capture. And local desktop capture is the good old desktop capture. So I'll do that and I'll say, oh, okay, all this stuff that I can capture. I've got 3 monitors attached to my PC, so that's display 1, 2, and 3. Apparently I have 2 Google Chrome windows open. I've got 4 different things going on with vMix. I've got vMix Social, and I've got Zoom. Well, what do you think I should pick? Well, in the old days, we picked Zoom. So we would take Zoom, and we'd bring it in, and well, there's the Zoom window. So let me go over and find Zoom over here, and I can start a new meeting and we will join with computer audio. And let's get that Zoom meeting out of the way, because boy, did that create all sorts of ruckus. And on my, let's put me back over here. There we go. On my second monitor over here, I see the Zoom window. And the Zoom window shows you all of this, because that is the current output. And so it used to be I could capture just the Zoom window, but Zoom has done something now that doesn't let me do that. So if I try to do that, well, let's go down here, add an input, and it's a desktop capture. Remember, it's not an NDI, and the spinner's not a spinner, it's radar. And we go to local desktop capture. I now have two new Zooms. I got a Zoom 2 and a Zoom 3. So let's take the Zoom 2. We'll see which one that is. And it's black. It's right down here, and it's black. So that didn't work. So let's try the next one. So we'll go to NDI desktop capture, not NDI, not a spinner, local desktop capture. We'll take Zoom 3, and Zoom 3 brings up this, which is the Zoom window that I see, but just the menu across the bottom. It's the craziest thing. I'm going to pick up my webcam and put myself here in output, and I'm going to pick up the webcam. And can I do this? Yeah, I've got another webcam. Let me go get the other webcam. We'll use it. It'll be easier to work with. Getting the other webcam. Hold on. Hold on. Don't go away. Getting the other webcam. All right. And so we're going to go to the other webcam, and we'll point it right there. This is the Zoom window right here. Right there's the Zoom window. It's showing basically what we're sending to Zoom, which is what you're sending. So that's why it's that infinity view. But you can see there's all this real estate here, and then there are these menus across the bottom. Okay? Well, let's go back to the desktop capture for just a second, and we'll put that out of the way. Oops. There we go. And we'll put that out of the way for just a second. And let me show you the window down here that we have. And I'll put it into output. This is the Zoom window. This is the Zoom window you just saw, but it doesn't have anything on it. Somehow the Zoom video has disappeared. And Martin Sinclair at vMix had a big explanation as to why that was the case. Most of it went over my head. Doesn't really matter. The bottom line was you can't capture just the window anymore. Now, our good friend Eric Pratt has set up a Facebook group on Zoom Like a Pro, I think is what it is. You can see my stripe right across here. My lights must not be right today. Please ignore that. It's not a bone. So Eric set up a demo, basically doing what I was just doing, and his worked perfectly. And I was just like, how did that rascal do it? And then I realized he didn't cover up his Zoom window. And he also used the desktop capture app. Well, what is the desktop capture app? Well, you can download and install. I think it's a separate download. I'm not sure if it comes with vMix naturally or not. If you go to the vMix website and go to the download trial page, there'll also be an option on there for desktop capture. You're hearing an echo? Yeah, I probably turned on another mic by accident. Sorry about that. There we go. It's off now. If you go to the vMix website, there is a let's show, not tell. Shall we do that? vmix.com. Let's see if we can get that. Oh, file not found. Well, we probably ought to do it as a web browser. www.vmix.com. And so we'll come into the vMix website. We can go to the free trial page, and then right below that, we can go to the vMix desktop capture section. And that's going to be these two right here. And if you download vMix desktop capture, then you can capture the Zoom window, assuming that the Zoom window is not covered up by something. So let's try that. So we'll start desktop capture. Just trust me, I'm going to my programs here in Windows, and I'm scrolling down to vMix, and I'm going to desktop capture. There it is, right there, and it brings up a little thing that says desktop capture, and basically it captures things and makes them available as an NDI resource. And it says it's got 4 things it can capture. So I'm going to just minimize that for a second. I'm going to go back and show you my screen again. Let me go, yeah, there we go. And let's go to add input, NDI. You remember before we just had one NDI. Well, now we've got a bunch of NDIs because it's capturing all the windows on my PCs, no matter what display it is. Display 1 is what I see in front of me. That's my vMix display. Display 2 is the multi-view that I'm using. Oh, let's do this. Is the multi-view that I'm using over here as a confidence monitor. Display 3 is a second monitor that I can see right here, and you can see all sorts of windows right there, including one that is the Zoom window. And then there's a Google Chrome window, another vMix, vMix 2, vMix Social, Zoom, Zoom 2, Zoom 3, and I think Zoom 3 right here now is our Zoom window. So we'll bring that in, and it just happens to show what you guys are seeing. So let me put that in output, and I think what you guys will see will be an infinity view, but let's just see. Yep, there it is. It's an infinity view. Woo, I got purple all of a sudden. And so what you were seeing was literally the Zoom window. Now, if I cover up that window with something else, let me go ahead and cover it up with something else and show it to you again, you can see it's now covered up by something, by a Chrome window. So you're not going to be able to capture the Zoom window without having the Zoom window visible somewhere, somehow. You know, maybe that means if you're on a laptop, you're going to have to put a second monitor, or you're going to have to get vMix small enough so that you can put Zoom on the same screen. Frankly, I think you want everything as large as possible, because the larger it is, the higher resolution it's going to be when you pack it down into whatever size you're streaming. So the key is going to be to use more monitor real estate and be able to have that Zoom window in a place where you can see it and where it won't ever be covered up in any way, because when it's covered up, it will be covered up. And again, sorry for the infinity. That's just the way it worked out. Once you've got that second window, you can record it. You can record it in vMix directly. You can record it. Last time we did the class, we ran a second PC and an instance of Zoom on that second PC. And so I was essentially in the class 2 times, you know, once on the primary PC as the speaker and once on a second PC as the recorder. And frankly, that recording can happen at any location. It doesn't have to be in your same office. You can have somebody remotely recording it while you are producing and streaming it. The capture of the Zoom window, if you've got just one person, you can bring that one person in, kind of like it's a Skype call or a vMix call. Once you go to 2 people, then Zoom wants to put them both side by side. And depending on how Zoom is configured, it might make the active speaker full screen so that when the speaker changes, the next person, the new speaker becomes full screen. And that works kind of okay. There'll be times where somebody will clear their throat, and sometimes they're set. When we did the classes, it was really funny because sometimes there'd be a cat meowing in the background, and suddenly that person became the active speaker. And so we learned quickly to, number one, mute everybody if they didn't mute themselves, and number two, to pin a speaker. That's a function of Zoom. And so it is definitely very workable. It's not the kind of thing that you say, okay, well, I'm going to do a Zoom session like this tonight. You want to practice with it, and you want to. Do we have a webcam that's giving us audio? No. You know what? It turned that mic back on again. Sorry about that. It wants to turn this mic on because I'm not in my normal spot. It turns on my normal spot mic. My apologies. That's the second. So there are two mics in the room. No, it's not auto mix, Rudy. It's Tom Dumb. Tom Dumbs. So that's how we use Zoom a couple of different ways. You can broadcast the Zoom window. I'm not a big fan of broadcasting the Zoom window with more than one guest, because if that second guest suddenly has to leave and close out their session, or their Zoom session is interrupted for some reason, it's going to resize the window. So if you're taking the two side-by-side screens in vMix and capturing one as speaker number one and capturing the second one as speaker number two, when speaker number two leaves, suddenly speaker number one becomes the only one and shifts over to the center. So your screen capture and your very careful cropping is all blown away. That's the advantage that vMix Call has, is, of course, you just have a single caller. You can have up to 8 single callers, assuming you've got bandwidth, but only, and I guess you could have more than one, but that's a story for a different time. So that's a little bit on Zoom. Let's talk a little bit on vMix Call, because some folks are trying that for the first time, and they're running into some difficulties, mostly because they just don't really understand what they're doing. But that's okay. I mean, we all start there. So vMix Call. vMix Call is a great new feature of vMix. I say new. It's been around since version 18 or something like that. It was one that I advocated for very strongly, 5 years ago with vMix, and it just took a while for the underlying technology, something called WebRTC, which establishes a peer-to-peer connection and handles audio and video and control. Before that matured enough to be stable enough for Martin Sinclair to decide that he wanted to include it in vMix. He wanted to make something that worked. I mean, that's been his passion. You can tell. I mean, he wants stuff that works all the time, every time. Not something that works, kind of works or works most of the time, but he wants something that works all the time, every time. And I know that he has a certain amount of trepidation on relying on other technologies that could change and he has no control over. A great example is Facebook. Facebook just decided one day, this was 3 years ago, we were all in Atlanta for a conference, and Facebook decided, if you stream anywhere else besides Facebook, we're not going to let you stream to Facebook. And so, Facebook broke. And Martin went up to his hotel room and within 5 hours had rewritten whatever modules of vMix were needed to work around that, so that vMix worked again, and so that Facebook worked with vMix again. And he's been very responsive, but I remember he was not a happy camper. Who can blame him? A lot of hard work that he'd already put in had to be redone because somebody else changed something over which he had no control. So I know he had a certain amount of trepidation about relying on WebRTC. At some point, he decided it was trustworthy enough to ride vMix Call on top of it. And what happens is that vMix has servers all over the world. And when you go to vmixcall.com, you're going to one of those servers. And as your guest puts in their name and password and makes the connection, the server makes the connection, but then immediately WebRTC renegotiates that as a peer-to-peer connection. So, if you're in Atlanta and I'm in Atlanta and the server's in, Virginia, it'll make that connection in Virginia, but then it negotiates that Atlanta to Atlanta connection. So it's the shortest distance, or the shortest internet distance, the quickest internet distance between 2 points. Having said that, it does ride on the internet, and it is subject to the internet. We've had folks that have had great internet speeds when they've checked them at the closest server. When you check internet speed, you're checking it not just, as an arbitrary number, but you're checking speed between 2 places. They had great internet speed, and their guest had great internet speed, but when they made the connection, it was a terrible connection because the internet between the 2 of them just had bad connections. Somewhere there was a gateway or something that just wasn't cooperating, and it didn't work well. vMix does have some servers that are set up to adopt that call and let it run through their server when that's the case. But it, whatever the threshold is, sometimes it doesn't always seem to work as well as we would like it to, or maybe it gets overloaded. I don't understand the behind the scenes. But suffice to say, you've got to have a good internet connection. Your guest has to have a good internet connection. And both of you are doing an upload and a download. The guest is uploading their video to you and downloading your video to them. And you're doing the same thing. You're uploading your video to the guest and downloading your guest video to you. Now, if I'm doing a show and I have a guest, no offense to my guest, but I don't really care that they have the greatest video to see, because they're the only ones that see it. I want the best video from them. So I want them to have a great upload speed so they can upload video to me, which becomes my download. And then I'm bringing them in at pristine 1080p, 30 frames a second, 6 megabit per second video. It looks great. In fact, sometimes the guest's video looks better than my own video. But I might send the guest back not 1080. I might send them back 360. If I'm really, because that's part of my uplink. So if I'm uplinking 1080 at 6 and I've got 20, that only leaves 14 for me to deal with. 20 is my total upload. 6 is what I'm sending them. That only leaves me 14 to live stream, and really doesn't leave me 14. It really only leaves me 4, because I only want to use about half of the 20 that I have, because the internet's up and down, and you just never know when it's going to pop and fluctuate. So what was that? That was crazy. So you want to do the basic math. If you're uploading video to your guest, you want to make sure that it's included in your upload calculations as you figure out, all right, I'm going to upload to YouTube at 6. I'm going to upload to Facebook at 3. I'm going to upload to somewhere else at 3. Well, that's 12. Oh, excuse me. If I've got 20, I'm already exceeding my 50%. I'm at 60%, which, may or may not be acceptable. So you want to be careful with your bandwidth. Now, the times that we've run 8 guests, and we've done that a couple of times on purpose just to test it, each guest got 240. That's just a decision on my part. I was sending them 240. And I get to choose what I send them. Basically, I get to choose what my upload speed is. If they're running vMix on their end, they get to choose what their upload speed is back to me. Most of the time, they're running, a guest is not going to have vMix on their end. They're going to have Google Chrome or Firefox. If it's an iOS system, they're going to have Safari, which is, runs on top of Chrome. And they're not going to be choosing their upload speed. The browser is going to choose it for them based on what it senses, it can handle in terms of video and audio as an uplink. The other difficulty that sometimes guests have when working with this kind of technology is that they're not very savvy with their browser. They may not know how to select their microphone or to select their camera, or they may not even know that they need to. They may not know that they have to have a way of listening, and that the listening is preferably headset or earbuds, something that what's the best way to put it? Something that won't feed back into a microphone. It's not going to feed back their voice, but it might feed back my voice. A lot of times when I'm speaking with a guest and I hear an echo of my own voice, I know that they've got my audio blasting into their room somehow. In one case, it was somebody with a headset and the earmuffs were just bleeding into the microphone. So you never know. But you want to make sure your guest is comfortable with the Chrome browser or whatever browser they're using, so that they can change their microphone if they need to, or they can change their camera if they need to, so that they can give permissions if they need to. I had a case with a client yesterday where we actually did a team viewer session, not with them, but with their client, and went into that PC and found out that, that PC was set up for the wrong microphone. It was set up for a microphone that didn't have any audio present on it. And so it wasn't going to work. While we're talking about guests and microphones, a lot of guests are using their laptops to come in to a broadcast like that, and they're using the camera in the laptop and the microphone built into the laptop, and then in some cases they're using the laptop speakers. But a lot of times they can use I don't have a set handy right here, but they can use the earbuds that came with their phone. A lot of times the newer laptops will have a single jack that will handle all three signals. That is, the three signals are microphone, left speaker, and right speaker. And so if you see the little 3.5 millimeter, 1/8 inch plug on the earbuds, if it has 3 rings on it, you know that includes the microphone and 2 speakers. If it has 2 rings on it, it's speakers only, and it doesn't have a mic on it somewhere. So if they've got a 3-ringer and they can plug it into one of those jacks that does audio, that does microphones and speakers, then that can become the sources for their Google Chrome, and you'll get much better audio frankly, you get much better audio over the little hanging mic and the earbud setup than you will from what they typically call the microphone array in a laptop. The microphone array in a laptop, if it's on a desk, a hard surface desk, it's going to pick up that echo of the desk. If there's a blank wall behind you, it's going to pick up the bounce back of the audio off of that blank wall. It's much better to have a mic that's kind of shielded by the body right here, a lav mic or an earbud mic. You can get lav mics that will plug into the mic jack on a laptop. And so that's a great way to do it. I was looking on Facebook today, and there's a news commentator named Dana Perino, who used to work in the White House under George Bush, and she's got a show called Daily Briefing. Well, she's doing it from her house. And so it was neat to see her setup. She was sitting on a chair. She had her lav mic plugged in. She had a big screen TV behind her with, some sort of motion graphics on it. They weren't doing green screen. And they had a backlit mic, so she had a hair mic. A backlit light, so she had a hair light. And that was about it. Oh, and she had a teleprompter and a camera, of course. But that was interesting to see how they do it. Let's see. Otis says, can you do an advanced deep dive into vMix class this week for a fee? Sure, that's a great idea, Otis. We'll set it up. What's today? Maybe we set that up for Thursday. Yeah, we can do that Thursday. We'll work on that. Thinking maybe, you give me an idea what a good price was, what you think is fair for you and for me, and we can do maybe a 2-hour deep dive Thursday afternoon. Frank says, good point on guests not knowing how to pick mic. Yeah. You never know. And a lot of times you'll have somebody that's an absolute blow-away expert in their field, but when it comes to the technology of a browser, they may be completely lost. They may be, really, really great on other things computer-wise, but their browser knowledge may not be that great. In fact, probably we ought to do a little tutorial on how to set up a browser for vMix Call. That might be a good one. Steve says, can I join the vMix class with Otis for a fee? Of course. Yeah. Tom Mullen says, Tom, what was the broadcast you mentioned just a minute ago? Well, I mentioned a couple. There was Cliff at Streamcast Network was doing a broadcast and was having some problems with a remote guest. I don't think that wasn't a broadcast for public consumption. It was a corporate broadcast. And then the Dana Perino wasn't a broadcast. It was just a snapshot, just a picture on her. I don't remember if that was on Twitter or Facebook. I think maybe it was Twitter. But it was just, the lady doing it from home. That was Dana Perino. And it's an afternoon news commentary show called Daily Briefing. I believe it's on Fox or Fox Business, one of the two. Frank says Dana Perino show. Yep. Perino. She was the press secretary for George H. Bush at one point during his presidency for several years, as I recall, and has very really interesting stories about what it's like behind the scenes in a White House during a time of crisis, and you're trying to communicate information and what you can say and what you can't say. I'm sure there's still a lot she can't say. I don't think she was the press secretary during 9/11. I think it was after that time. I think Ari Fleischer might have been the press secretary then, and he's pretty sharp too. All right, let's see other vMix call kinds of things. You can control your upload speed to your guest. Your guest, if they are using vMix, can control their upload speed to you, but they can't if they're using a browser. It's negotiated automatically. Once the audio and video are coming into vMix on the vMix call input, you have an opportunity to monitor some statistics about that if you want to. Let me see if I can pull up my desktop again. So we'll throw the desktop up here. And I've got a vMix call right here, right over here. It's not active right now because nobody's calling in, but you can see I've got it set up to do a return video bandwidth to guest of 360p at 500k bps or 0.5 megabits. It also has something called Call Manager. So I'll select Call Manager, and it shows that, my input right here, and there's a phone number, I guess you could call it if you wanted to. And also, if I click this little bar graph, it gives me all sorts of stats. It tells me the video in from the client, the audio in from the client, video out to the client, and the audio out to the client. And there's a set of 4 of these for each call. So you imagine if you have 8 calls, you've got 32 columns of data that you can look at. And it's going to tell you what the resolution is coming in, what the resolution is going out, whatever codec it is, the speed in 2 different formats, and the max speed, the total number of frames, the frames per second, the frames lost, the number of keyframes, the total number of packets, the packets per second, the packets lost per second, the packets lost percentage, the resent package, the buffer, that is the time it takes for video or audio to get to them or to get to you from them, and then their IP address. The buffer is really helpful. If that buffer blows up to, more than 500 milliseconds, you've got a problem. I mean, 500 milliseconds is half a second. So that means between the time I say something and you hear it and respond to it, and I hear your response, that's a second of dead air. And a second is a long pause. So, and there's not anything I don't think there's anything you can do to manage the buffer. The buffer is dynamic and will be constantly fluctuating up and down. But a buffer of 100 or less is outstanding. And sometimes the buffers will get uneven between audio and video. And that's no good. You'll see maybe the video will be running way behind. The audio will be running way behind. And sometimes that sort of cleans itself up. My tendency is to to go ahead and start a call with a guest before I need them on the call, because WebRTC is negotiating the shortest distance between, the fastest distance between 2 points. And so I want to give it plenty of time to do that. So I like to have somebody on for at least 5 minutes before we go live together, so that it has a chance to negotiate that out. And there have been some rare occasions when I've asked them to restart on their end, so that we could have a different connection, because whatever connection we had wasn't working. Now, so far as restarting is concerned, there's not an on-off switch. Oops, sorry. Yep, there we go. Get rid of that echo. There's not an on-off switch on vMix call. Once I add a vMix call input and I give that password to a guest, and that guest uses either vMix call or a browser and calls in, and we have an active connection, the only way for me to hang up on the connection is to close that input. Not the best form, but maybe a fix is coming on that. On the guest's end, they might be able to right click and close the call and end the call. I don't recall. I'm not on that end. But I know that if the call somehow is ended, they can reconnect. I can't reconnect with them, but they can reconnect with me. They right click. This is in vMix now. They right click on the vMix input on their end and just click reconnect. If they're in a browser, they just refresh the browser. It should have the password and their name in it, and then they just click connect. But we can go back on Thursday afternoon when we do this deep dive into vMix call, and we'll set up some calls and let you guys practice with it. Yes, Frank says they have a red button in the Google Chrome that they can click to end the call. That's right. They can end it like that, and then they can restart it by refreshing it. I don't recall on the vMix end if your guest has vMix what it's like, but we can play with that on Thursday and see. Really, I've covered most of it, but I'm happy to do a session where you guys can ask me specific questions, and we can go into it a little bit more deeply and practice some things. Suffice to say that you have to be a mathematician. You have to be able to add and subtract in order to run vMix call so that you get your bandwidth right. And you can't forget bandwidth. And you have to be a little bit of a technical troubleshooter to help your guest with it so that they can get it. And you have to understand the kinds of problems that they're likely to run into. Some of the other problems that a lot of guests run into have nothing to do with technology. They have to do with just ignorance in broadcasting. I remember several years ago, I was doing a vMix call interview with the CEO of a big tech company, a growing tech company. Let me put it that way. Growing tech companies. They're still around, and I was really excited about what they were doing. Echo came back and gone just a second ago. I noticed you did. Well, I'm glad you noticed. That's Amanula. And he decided that he thought maybe the best place for him to put himself, he had a big, beautiful conference room to do this, was right in front of a window. And he was a light-skinned black guy. And with the light of the window behind me, it was just nothing, no features in the face, no nothing, just complete darkness. And I remember trying to get him to move, and finally he moved a little bit, so the window was kind of half and half. But I don't think he ever really understood what I was doing, and maybe he did later on. So not putting your subject in front of a window is really, really critical. Don't put them in front of a window. Don't have the lights behind them. What is it? Somebody wants to be at their desk, which is up against a wall. The monitor's right up against the wall, their webcam's right there, and then every light in the room is on behind them. And so their face is just bathed in shadow, and it just doesn't work. Better to turn off all but one of those lights and then put on a small desk lamp or better yet, a couple of desk lamps on either side. Yeah. Frank says, I did a practice call yesterday for the first time. I see many things going forward to use this interview with missionaries overseas. Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's a great opportunity for missionaries to literally call in. They can call in with their phone. Oops, somebody is calling. They can call in with their phone and using vmixcall.com. So on their browser, Safari if it's iOS and Chrome if it's Android, and have a pretty good picture. And of course, it'll do horizontal if you turn the phone horizontally, and it'll do vertical other if you're vertical. So there you go. vMix call. That's some troubleshooting tips. Number one tip: internet. What's the internet speed? Do you have uplink? And again, a lot of people don't understand the difference, or they say, "Oh yeah, my ISP says I have," or not my ISP. Comcast says I have 100 down and 50 up. Yeah, well, what is it today? Just because your car is capable of going 100 miles an hour doesn't mean it's going 100 miles an hour right now. Yeah, Jan says have your guest put the camera at eye level. That's a great suggestion. Absolutely. And if they have glasses, don't put a light right in front of them. Yeah. And don't use one of those ring lights if they have glasses. Ring lights are great if you don't have glasses. They really do a good job of lighting up the face. Put the camera right in the middle of the ring light. The ring light is a bulb that goes around in a circle. That's why they call it a ring light. Yeah. But a ring light wouldn't work with me. I'd have, rings right there. And you can see, there's it right there. Yeah, there's a light right there. That's just, it's moved. I generally have it over just a few feet the other direction so that it doesn't make this little glare right there. And some of your guests may have, they may be bald. Nothing against bald folks, but sometimes a shiny head can be a little distracting. So a little bit of powder will help. A little bit of makeup. I keep face powder in the restroom here in the studio. Excuse me, for guests or occasionally for myself when I get a little shiny spot. Shiny spot on the nose, shiny spot on the forehead. It's not too bad today, but it all depends on the lighting too. If I've got a light that just happens to hit right there and makes that reflection. I'm a big fan of microphones. You don't see a mic. I don't have a lav mic. I don't have a big mic coming in that's, I'm trying to work around all the time. The mic is right here, just out of the shot, and I think produces pretty good audio, and it means there's nothing between you and me. That's the look that I want. Same thing when I'm on that set. I've got a boom arm that drops a mic down over. There are lots of different mics that'll do that. In fact, for a guest setup, if you wanted to help equip a guest, the mic that I'm running right here, let me see what it is. It's the Audio-Technica ATR 2100 USB, and it will literally plug into USB. So you don't even have to have a mic jack per se. And, they still have to have a way to hear, but yeah, and John says 40 grit sandpaper. Well, I wouldn't use 40. I'd use like 220 or 110. Yeah, there you go. All right, folks. Well, that's the story. As much of it as you're going to hear from me today. But I appreciate you. Let's see if we can get this back up again. There we go. Questions about what we're talking about Skype. Excuse me, actually it would work with Skype too. Skype and Zoom are similar in that sense. But about Zoom and about vMix call. Great audio. Well, I think it's pretty good audio from a $60 mic. Maybe it's $80 now. You probably can't get it now, but in normal circumstances. The mic comes with a little desktop mic stand and a USB cable and an XLR cable. And in fact, the mic will go XLR or USB. I have it going XLR right now, but I've used it on USB and it's great. It's a tad, could be a tad confusing again for a novice because it has a volume control on the bottom of the mic and it also has an on-off switch. So there you go. And the other part of audio is not the mic, but it's the room. How important is the room? This room right here, I took my sky cam down, but this room is covered with stuff to either absorb sound waves or to redirect them. The only thing, there's a little bit of solid floor over there, but I've got those big, thick, padded moving blankets hanging from everywhere. And I think that really helps keep that reflection out. The other key, I think, for audio, and has nothing to do with vMix call, although it can be very important with a vMix caller, is a plug-in to vMix from Waves Audio called NS1, the noise suppressor. And I've used that successfully here. I've used it successfully on vMix call guests on their audio coming in. I've had clients use it successfully. One of the things that I've used it for with guests is if they have that room echo, it will take out the room echo. NS1 from Waves Audio. It at my church, don't tell anybody at my church I do this. At my church, I think there's too much reverb in the worship leader's microphone, at least for a live stream. And so I can use the NS1 filter to mute that just a little bit, just to take the edge off of it, so that it's not so. I think they just don't have it adjusted right. I don't think they know what they were doing, but they didn't ask my opinion. So it will take a little of the reverb out. We use it here. I've got a server sitting right there, and it knocks out, I would say, if not all, it knocks out 95% of the server noise. I've got a fairly busy street out that way, and it doesn't knock out, it won't knock out the big diesel trucks when they come through. But, there's a car passing right now, and you won't hear it. It does a great job of that. And that's the NS1 noise filter, noise suppressor from Waves Audio. All right, final focus. That's Steve says, Otter, as we call him. Can you state again how you output vMix to Zoom? Yes. In vMix, there is a button across the bottom where the buttons go. Let me get back there. I can show you, at least point it out. Let's go here. And right down here, between the record button and the stream button, is the external button. And if I turn on the external button, it turns red, and it creates a output. So my output window right here, it creates an output video that emulates a webcam. And so that webcam, which is the output from my vMix, can now become the webcam that's selected to be used in Zoom. Now, part of the trick is to start the external in vMix before you turn on Zoom, so that when you turn on Zoom, Zoom will recognize the vMix audio, the vMix video right away, and that'll make it work. I'd say 9 times out of 10. There may be some occasional times where you'll just get color bars. Most of the time when that happens to me, I have to restart my PC. That's the only way I can get it to fix, because somehow Zoom thinks it knows what it's looking for, and it sees color bars when really vMix external is sending the video. Yeah, doggone it. Let's just draw that mic down that way. We'll draw it down and turn it off. So now it won't ever go again. I did press the button. Yep. Otis says, we forgot to sound check our mixer to vMix on Sunday. A band member changed some settings. Ouch. Yep. And, folks, I don't think, 99 out of 100 times they don't mean it maliciously. I think it's just done ignorantly. They don't understand the impact to other things of what they might be doing. There you go. We'll post notice of our vMix call class for Thursday in the Streaming Idiots Facebook group. And it will also be a product that you can purchase on the Eastern Shore Broadcasting, in the Eastern Shore Broadcasting store, just easternshorebroadcasting.com. So we'll make sure that if you're interested in that, it's available to you. It'll be Thursday afternoon. We'll do it at 3 o'clock Eastern, Thursday afternoon. Deep dive into vMix Call. And we can get into Zoom a little bit too if you want, but it's really the vMix folks that seem to be interested in it. And then in 2 weeks, on April 7th, we'll be starting the vMix 101 class. And it is also available in the store, and we'll put some information in Streaming Idiots Facebook group and the Eastern Shore Broadcasting group so that we've already got a bunch of folks signed up for it. So we'd love to have you in there too. Let's see. I think we're ready to close out the show. We'll go to post show. Stick around. We will be right back. Okay, and we're back. We're back in the post show here. So look forward to seeing you guys in class. There it would be. And we kind of did the show and the post show all in one. So if you guys have some more questions, I'll pay a little bit more attention to you now than I did before. In fact, I'll go ahead and scroll back through and see what I might have missed. One second here, just rolling back. All right, Chad says that vMix Desktop Capture does install with vMix. Got it. Good to know. Okay. Let's see. Wixton was asking, so if money is no question, why use Zoom over MS Teams? I'm not familiar with MS Teams. That's the only reason why I've focused on Zoom. I just don't know MS Teams. Rudy says there's a problem with Zoom in a company environment, security-wise. Tim says vMix broke, so he reinstalled it, and that fixed it. Good. Oh, Martin Steed was here. Sorry I missed you. Probably in bed by now. Audio is important. It is. Clint shows up late. That's okay. Let's see. I think that's all I've really missed. Yeah, there we go. Donald Oliver Ministries says, considering the Easy Cap, since other devices are more challenging to order, what are your thoughts? I've not been an Easy Cap fan for the longest time. I used to be an Easy Cap fan when I was doing standard definition video 10 years ago. So I really can't comment on what the latest versions of Easy Cap are doing. But I will say it's hard to get a hold of the other devices. The cam links tend to be pretty good, although when people call me and they have problems and they have cam links, it's almost always been the cam link. But I think, for some people it must work great. The Yan PD570 Pro, which is $250, and then the Magewell USB 3 converter, which is about 300, are really the choice for professionals. So it just depends on how good you want to be. So I would look at those, but again, those are going to be in short supply too, I think. Eric says, are you going to put the replay class up for sale? You know, Eric, it has taken us forever to edit it. We are almost done. I mean, I would think a week away from doing that, and I'll let you know for sure. Rich says, just got a call from a church. Do I have any PTZs? The PTZs are on back order. PTZs are on back order. I mean, if they're in a jam and they want to borrow one, I can loan them one, my studio one, but that's probably not the best solution. TV97.net, welcome. For vMix call, it would be nice to have bandwidth test page to measure the total capacity between our vMix PC and the vMix call server. Yeah, there's not really a vMix call server per se. I mean, there is, but once it establishes the peer-to-peer connection, that is the connection between you and the host and your guest, once that direct connection is established, the server gets out of the way. So any bandwidth test between you and the vMix call server wouldn't really serve a purpose. It would just be there for that initial contact and then the handoff to the point-to-point peer-to-peer connection. And that I think there are ways to ping IP addresses and see, you know, how many hops it's making and what the latency is. I'm not an expert on that, but I'll see if I can find out and bring that to the class on Thursday. But in absence of that, you know, the general speed test by you and by your guest, both download, but most importantly upload, is the first thing that we would look at. Excuse me. All right, Scott's got a question. Recently, for some reason, his total usage has been going to 2,000 to 3,000 in capacity. You're talking about CPU, Scott? You're talking about the vMix statistics in the bottom left-hand corner of the vMix desktop, where it says, you know, frames per second, render time, GPU memory, percentage, CPU, vMix percentage, and total CPU percentage. Occasionally those have broken in the past. If you are not at vMix 23.0.0.46, which is the latest, greatest number version of vMix, then you probably should upgrade to that. And my guess would be that would cure what ails you. It also may be that somehow your PC is just not reporting. I know that a lot of times it's not a surprise to me that there's a discrepancy between how vMix reports total CPU and how Windows reports total CPU. And I've had discussions with Martin Sinclair about that, and he basically doesn't like the way Windows calculates CPU use, so he came up with his own way of doing it. Scott says upgraded. Okay. That doesn't tell me what version number you're working on. That was my question. Don't answer questions I'm not asking. It's like, you know, when I used to do a lot of expert witness testimony, and the lawyer, you know, the very first time I did it, the lawyer said, Mr. Sinclair, do you know what time it is? And I'd say, yeah, it's 4:30. And he'd say, wrong. I'd say, what? It is 4:30. I'm looking right here at my clock. And he said, no, you answer the question that I asked. The question I ask is, do you know what time it is? Oh, yes, I know what time it is. Okay, Mr. Sinclair, what time is it? Now we got it. So Scott, the question for you is, what number version of vMix are you using? Are you using 23.0.0.46? Or did you upgrade from vMix HD to vMix 4K? I had a call. I literally had a call from somebody today that said they upgraded from vMix HD to vMix 4K, and their Facebook stream wasn't working. And they knew they had the latest because they just upgraded. They upgraded their license, but they never upgraded the software. And so they were still on version 21. And when they updated their software, the version, downloaded the new one and installed it, Then they knew that they had the latest, greatest. It was 23.0.0.46, and their problems went away. So check your numbered version. That would be the first thing to double check. And the second thing to double check would be to make sure your Windows is up to date. And when you do that Windows Update page, check and make sure there's not a little listing down there that gives you another option to install an additional feature or a cumulative update or something like that. I've got somebody in Texas that's called me 4 times in a row. You think they have a question? Maybe they do. Maybe they do. Let's see how we're doing here. All right. Well, guys, I appreciate you guys popping in today. We will have more information on our deep dive into vMix Call for Thursday coming up soon. If you have some input for me, post it here in the chat or send me an email. It's just tom@easternshorebroadcasting.com. Tell me how much you think it would be worth, how long you want it to go. And if 3 o'clock Eastern on Thursday is not good for you, when is a good time? I'm pretty flexible. I mean, we got some work here, but we can squeeze out some time for you. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for showing up today. I really appreciate it. For those of you that are sound asleep, don't wake up. We'll lull you to sleep. But we will catch you next week. Streaming Idiots. Take care. Let's see. How do we turn this thing off? Oh, yeah. Here we go. This ought to do it. This for sure.